If Nintendo had developed Kid Icarus 64 from 1991 to 1999, here is an alternative development timeline that aligns with the details you've provided. 1991, initial concept development beginnings after the release of Kid Icarus, of Myths and Monsters for the Game Boy. Nintendo decides to develop a sequel for the SNES. Early concepts focus on expanding the original Kid Icarus series with enhanced visuals and more complex gameplay, retaining the platforming and action elements. Development begins at Nintendo RD1, now part of EPD, leveraging the SNES hardware's capabilities while experimenting with pre-rendered graphics, inspired by other major platformers at the time. 1993, transition to 3D N64 considerations with the rise of 3D gaming and the upcoming Nintendo 64 in development. The decision is made to shift the Kid Icarus sequel from the SNES to the Nintendo 64. This is part of a larger trend as Nintendo moves its most beloved franchises to the next generation of consoles. The project undergoes a major redesign, with the development team beginning to explore the transition from 2D side-scrolling to 3D, keeping the core platforming and action elements but integrating the emerging 3D technologies. 1994, official transition to Nintendo 64. As the N64 is officially announced in 1994, the Kid Icarus game begins its full transition to the new system. The development team begins working on 3D character models, environments, and exploring new gameplay possibilities in a 3D space. The game is officially titled Kid Icarus 64, and early demos showcase Pit navigating a 3D world with traditional platforming elements, now with the added complexity of free movement and 3D environments. The game is shown privately within Nintendo, and feedback is given to further refine the gameplay. 1995, move to the N64. With the N64DD's announcement, Nintendo decides to move the Kid Icarus 64 project to the new peripheral, envisioning its expanded storage capacity and potential for more content, such as large open areas, multiple worlds, and more complex narrative elements. The game begins to evolve, with a larger emphasis on exploration, puzzle solving, and developing a more intricate story. The game shifts from being a purely platforming experience to one that includes RPG elements like questlines and character progression. A demo for the N64DD version of the game is shown at early trade shows, showing Pit flying across expansive, open-world environments. 1996, the development struggles with the N64. Development for Kid Icarus 64 becomes increasingly challenging as the N64DD struggles to gain traction. Delays in the release of the N64DD and hardware issues plague the project. The N64DD's software library remains sparse, and Nintendo begins to reconsider the game's direction due to the uncertainty around the peripheral's future. 1997, move back to the N64. Faced with continuous delays to the N64DD's release and lack of third-party support, Nintendo decides to scrap the N64DD version of Kid Icarus 64. The game is moved back to the standard N64 hardware, but with a more simplified approach to the gameplay and world design. The development team is forced to streamline the game, cutting back on the more ambitious open-world exploration and RPG elements that were originally planned. Focus shifts back to core 3D platforming and action, with emphasis on fast-paced combat, puzzles, and a tighter narrative. The game retains a more linear level design, similar to early Kid Icarus games, but with enhanced 3D visuals and exploration. 1998, refining the gameplay new features. The game begins to come together with Pit having a redesigned moveset that incorporates both flight and combat. Early prototypes showcase Pit gliding in 3D space, utilizing a mix of platforming, combat, and puzzle solving. The team refines the visuals, taking advantage of the N64's capabilities, showcasing lush 3D environments with real-time lighting and shadow effects. Multiplayer features, including co-op gameplay or competitive battles, are explored, but they ultimately remain in the planning stages due to time constraints. 1999. Finalizing release. The development team works tirelessly to meet the deadline for Kid Icarus 64's release in the fall of 1999. The final game features a mix of linear and semi-open levels, where players take control of Pit in both ground-based and aerial combat sequences. The story sees Pit venture through various worlds, battling new and familiar foes, with an expanded mythology surrounding Medusa and new gods and goddesses introduced to the lore. Kid Icarus 64 is released in November 1999 to critical acclaim, praised for its innovative mix of platforming and action, as well as its expansive world. While it lacks some of the ambitious features initially planned for the N64 version, it is lauded for its gameplay, storytelling, and 3D design that successfully captured the spirit of the original Kid Icarus. Post-release Kid Icarus 64 would go on to become a cult classic, and due to its success, it would lead to further installments in the series. The game would eventually inspire the 2011 Kid Icarus Uprising for the Nintendo 3DS, which would borrow heavily from the aerial combat mechanics introduced in this version, but in a more refined and fast-paced gameplay style. This timeline provides an alternate view of how Kid Icarus 64 could have developed from 1991 to 1999, with major shifts in technology and hardware impacting the course of the game's development. For Omini, if Nintendo had developed a Kid Icarus game for the GameCube, following the release of Kid Icarus 64 in 1999 and planning for a 2003 release, the development timeline might have looked like this. 1999, post-release of Kid Icarus 64 conceptualization. Late 1999, Kid Icarus 64 is released to positive reception, with the GameCube already in development as the next Nintendo console. The success of Kid Icarus 64 encourages Nintendo to create a follow-up title for the GameCube. Early 2000, the development team, led by Shigeru Miyamoto and others from the RD1 team, begins brainstorming ideas for the next Kid Icarus title. After the evolution of the series from 2D to 3D with Kid Icarus 64, the team aims to expand the concept further, looking into improving the visuals and gameplay with the GameCube's more powerful hardware. The focus shifts to offering a deeper, more cinematic experience while keeping the series' action platforming routes intact. Concepts for larger, more immersive environments, better character models, and new mechanics are discussed. 2000, early development planning. Early 2000, official development for Kid Icarus GameCube begins, with Nintendo's new system in mind. The GameCube's improved graphical capabilities allow for detailed 3D environments, including lush landscapes and more fluid character animation. Late 2000, the game's design takes shape, with a stronger emphasis on both ground-based combat and aerial combat, inspired by the Kid Icarus 64's flight mechanics. The story would expand on the Greek mythology theme, adding new characters and locations. The game is planned as a hybrid of fast-paced combat, puzzle-solving, and exploration. The aerial combat from Kid Icarus 64 is retained but with enhanced controls and more variety in movement. 2001, expanding the story gameplay systems. Early 2001, the narrative for Kid Icarus GameCube is finalized, with Pit returning as the protagonist. This time, however, the storyline dives deeper into the mythology surrounding the gods of Olympus and introduces new gods and creatures to combat. The quest revolves around Pit battling new enemies while uncovering a larger conspiracy that threatens both the mortal and divine worlds. Late 2001, gameplay expands with the inclusion of more RPG elements. Pit can level up, unlock new abilities, and acquire items. A more robust combat system allows for combos and magic-based attacks, with a focus on strategic use of aerial combat and ground combat. The environments are varied, from lush forests to celestial temples and dark dungeons. The worlds are designed to showcase the GameCube's graphical prowess, with dynamic lighting and complex animations. The decision is made to include co-op gameplay or multiplayer modes, allowing players to team up as different characters or battle in competitive arenas. 2002, refining the gameplay technical challenges. Early 2002, the development team faces challenges with implementing the new aerial mechanics. Flying controls are difficult to fine-tune, especially in large, open environments, and the camera system requires multiple adjustments to keep the action clear and exciting. Mid-2002, the game's combat system is revamped. After testing reveals some issues with balance. The team focuses on making both aerial and ground combat equally engaging, ensuring the transitions between flying and walking are seamless and intuitive. The game's visuals are polished, with significant advancements in texture quality, lighting effects, and fluid character animations, especially during battle sequences. Late 2002, the team shifts focus to refining multiplayer features, including a new cooperative mode where players can join forces as different gods or mythological creatures to defeat powerful bosses or fight in arena-style matches. 2003, final development testing. Early 2003, the core gameplay and mechanics are finalized, and the game enters the final stages of development. Nintendo tests and polishes the game, ensuring it meets the quality standards expected from the franchise. Multiplayer modes undergo thorough testing, and additional mini-games or challenges are added to the final build. The soundtrack is also composed, with a focus on orchestral music to match the grand, mythological themes of the game. Mid-2003, the game is fully completed, and the development team focuses on bug fixes and final optimizations. The final level design is polished, and any remaining issues with the game's camera and combat system are addressed. Marketing ramps up, with teaser trailers highlighting the improved graphics, cinematic sequences, and expansive worlds. Late 2003, release reception. Late 2003, November, Kid Icarus GameCube is released worldwide. The game is praised for its stunning visuals, innovative aerial combat mechanics, deep mythological story, and engaging multiplayer modes. Fans of the Kid Icarus series are excited by the next-gen iteration of Pit's adventures, and the game quickly garners a loyal fanbase. Critics note the GameCube's strong hardware capabilities are fully utilized, with detailed textures, beautiful lighting effects, and smooth character animations. Some critiques focus on the sometimes frustrating difficulty spikes, but overall, the game is a commercial success. The game introduces Kid Icarus to a new generation of gamers while satisfying fans of the original series with its deep lore and expanded gameplay mechanics. Post-release legacy. Following the release, the game garners attention for its new gameplay mechanics, and its success further cements Kid Icarus as a beloved Nintendo franchise. The success of Kid Icarus GameCube paves their way for future entries, with the 3D mechanics and story elements inspiring later Kid Icarus games, including Kid Icarus Uprising on the Nintendo 3DS in 2011. This timeline reflects a gradual progression from the success of Kid Icarus 64 on the N64 to the development of a more expansive and graphically impressive Kid Icarus title for the GameCube, with enhanced gameplay mechanics, deeper storytelling, and multiplayer elements. 4 Mini. If Nintendo had developed a Kid Icarus game for the Wii, starting development in 2003 and releasing it in 2007, the timeline would likely have unfolded with significant shifts in both hardware capabilities and gameplay mechanics. Here's an alternative development timeline for the game. 2003, early concept development beginnings. Late 2003, following the success of Kid Icarus GameCube, released late 2003, Nintendo begins discussions for a new Kid Icarus game designed specifically for the Wii, which is set to launch in 2006. The team behind the previous games, including Shigeru Miyamoto and a new generation of developers, Begin brainstorming ideas. The Wii's unique control system and the motion sensing capabilities of the Wii Remote A leads the team to rethink Kid Icarus gameplay to incorporate motion controls in an innovative way. Early 2004, the team begins exploring ideas for Pit's movements, combining traditional platforming with a unique motion-based combat system, focusing on the integration of flying and ground-based combat. 2004. Conceptualizing and refining the gameplay. Early 2004, the team experiments with integrating flying mechanics into the Wii Remote's motion controls, aiming for intuitive, one-to-one motion tracking to allow players to feel as though they are controlling Pit's flight. The story is outlined to continue expanding the Kid Icarus mythos, with Pit facing new foes from different mythological pantheons. The gods of Olympus are once again central to the story, but the narrative will include new characters and a stronger emphasis on Pit's relationship with his allies. Late 2004, game design begins to shift toward a more immersive experience, with the development team focusing on creating expansive environments, rich with detail. Unlike previous games, the team leans into a more epic scope, envisioning larger-than-life battles and environments that take full advantage of the Wii's graphics, even if more stylized than realistic. 2005, prototyping motion control integration. Early 2005, the development team begins to finalize the gameplay loop. Early tests with motion controls show potential for highly interactive combat sequences, flying while aiming and attacking in real time with the Wii Remote's motion sensors. The game is designed as a hybrid action-adventure title with a blend of aerial combat and on-foot platforming. The team introduces unique combat mechanics where the Wii Remote is used for shooting arrows, wielding melee weapons, and interacting with the environment. Mid-2005, development accelerates as prototypes are tested. Some of the earliest feedback emphasizes the need for a smooth transition between the game's aerial and platforming sections. The game's control system is fine-tuned, with adjustments made to the flight mechanics to feel fluid and intuitive while avoiding motion sickness. The art style is refined to strike a balance between the realism of the world and the whimsical nature of the characters, with environments becoming more vibrant and varied in design. 2006, development milestones. Story refinement. Early 2006, the core gameplay is solidified, with the addition of multiple combat styles, new enemies, and the introduction of various gods and mythological characters as bosses. Pit will now have access to new power-ups, including divine abilities that he can activate using motion controls. The game includes both solo and multiplayer modes. For multiplayer, players can control various gods or mythical creatures, either cooperating with Pit or battling against each other in arena-style combat. Mid-2006, the development team begins refining the graphics to fully utilize the Wii's capabilities. While the hardware limitations are apparent in comparison to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, the game's art style allows the team to overcome these limitations by focusing on stylized visuals, dynamic lighting, and detailed character animations. The game's story is fine-tuned to add new layers, emphasizing Pit's growth as a hero while exploring deeper lore surrounding the gods of Olympus. A narrative thread focuses on the rise of a new, powerful antagonist that threatens the divine world. 2007, final development testing. Early 2007, with the game nearing completion, the development team focuses on testing and refining all aspects. Playtesting reveals the need for further optimization of motion controls, and adjustments are made to ensure precision during combat and flying sections. The multiplayer modes are fine-tuned, ensuring smooth and engaging gameplay for both cooperative and competitive experiences. A wide range of playable characters is available, each with unique abilities. The soundtrack is composed, blending orchestral elements with dynamic combat music that intensifies based on gameplay. 2007, finalization release. Late 2007, November, Kid Icarus Wii is officially released worldwide. The game is praised for its innovative use of motion controls, fluid combat system, and engaging story. The integration of both ground-based platforming and flight mechanics is highlighted as a unique feature that makes the game stand out among other action-adventure titles. Critics praise the game's fresh take on the Kid Icarus series, with many noting that the game utilizes the Wii's control scheme to deliver a highly interactive experience. The visuals, while stylized, are praised for their creativity, and the game's ambitious design helps it stand out on the Wii. Sales are solid, boosted by the unique nature of the gameplay and the strong brand recognition of the Kid Icarus franchise. Post-release legacy. Following the release of Kid Icarus Wii, the game gains a loyal fanbase, with many citing it as one of the best examples of how to use the Wii's unique controls effectively. The multiplayer modes become popular, encouraging community play. The game's success leads to new entries in the Kid Icarus series, with Kid Icarus Uprising on the Nintendo 3DS, 2011, taking inspiration from the motion controls and aerial combat seen in Kid Icarus Wii. The game also serves as a key example of how the Wii's unique control scheme could be used to elevate traditional franchises, blending classic gameplay with new technologies. Key features of Kid Icarus Wii: motion control combat, the use of the Wii remote to control both ground combat, shooting arrows, wielding melee weapons, and aerial combat, flying through the skies, using divine powers. Expanded mythology, a deeper dive into Greek mythology with a new cast of gods, monsters, and environments. Multiplayer modes, both co-op and competitive multiplayer modes, featuring playable characters from Greek mythology and the Kid Icarus series. Art style: world design, a vibrant, stylized art direction that combines dynamic 3D environments with fantastical characters and settings. This timeline showcases how Kid Icarus could have evolved on the Wii, leveraging the console's unique features to innovate on the gameplay while keeping the core of the series intact. 4.0 Mini Uprising development in a different video. If Nintendo had developed a Kid Icarus game for the Nintendo Switch, starting development in 2011 after Kid Icarus Uprising, with Masahiro Sakurai as a producer rather than director, and with a release set for January 2018, the development timeline could have unfolded as follows. 2011, post-Kid Icarus Uprising initial conceptualization. Early 2011, following the release of Kid Icarus Uprising for the Nintendo 3DS, which received critical acclaim. Discussions for a follow-up Kid Icarus game begin within Nintendo. Late 2011, Masahiro Sakurai, who directed Uprising, is appointed as a producer for the next Kid Icarus entry, while another director is chosen to handle day-to-day development. Sakurai is busy with the development of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, leaving him with limited time to be directly involved in the creative aspects. This marks a shift in the leadership, as Sakurai now focuses on guiding the project at a higher level, overseeing the overall direction and ensuring continuity with Uprising. Late 2011, early 2012, the team begins brainstorming ideas for the next Kid Icarus game. Given the success of Uprising, the idea of continuing Pit's adventures with improved gameplay, new mythological elements, and richer environments is solidified. The Switch is still in early development stages at this point, but early thoughts begin to center on how the game could take advantage of the console's hybrid nature, portable and home console. 2013, early development conceptualization of the Switch game. Early 2013, with the release of the Wii U, development on Kid Icarus for the console begins. The game's design is focused on evolving the mechanics of Uprising, using the Wii U's gamepad to control Pit's flying movements and shooting, possibly incorporating asymmetric multiplayer modes, like those seen in Nintendo Land. 2014, as the Wii U struggles with sales, development of Kid Icarus for the system slows down. The team begins to question whether releasing the game on the Wii U is the right direction. During this time, Sakurai and Nintendo executives discuss shifting the focus to the upcoming console, Project NX, the Switch, which promises a broader audience and a unique hybrid gameplay experience. 2015, transition to Project NX. Early 2015, development of the Kid Icarus title officially moves to Project NX, Nintendo's new console that will later become the Nintendo Switch. The decision is made to focus on creating a game that would leverage the hybrid nature of the Switch, a console that could be played both at home and on the go. The core gameplay, inspired by Uprising, remains intact but is adjusted to fit the new hardware. Late 2015, early 2016, the team begins to experiment with motion controls on the Switch's Joy-Con controllers and HD Rumble features to enhance the experience. The idea of incorporating more complex aerial combat is revisited, but the team opts for more intuitive controls that do not rely heavily on motion inputs, ensuring the game is accessible to all players. 2016, Game Design Finalization. New elements. 2016, the design of the game begins to solidify. The story is centered around Pit once again being called upon by Palutena to face a new threat to the gods, including new mythological creatures and gods from other cultures, expanding the game's scope beyond Greek mythology. The team introduces new gameplay mechanics, such as the ability to switch between ground-based combat and aerial combat more fluidly, similar to how Uprising worked but with improved controls and graphics. Exploration is emphasized, with larger, more open environments and new puzzle elements. 2016, the game's graphics are designed to take full advantage of the Switch's capabilities, ensuring a visually stunning experience that blends high-quality character models, large-scale environments, and smooth animations. The game is set to be a showcase title for the console. Late 2016, the game's development nears full production, with Sakurai providing oversight, offering guidance on keeping the tone consistent with the franchise's spirit, and adding his input on certain features, like combat and level design. 2017, final development testing. Early 2017, the game enters the final phase of development, with much of the groundwork already completed. The core combat systems are polished, ensuring both air and ground combat are fluid and engaging. The team focuses on refining the user interface, motion controls, through the Joy-Con, and the exploration mechanics. Mid-2017, a multiplayer mode is developed, allowing players to engage in cooperative or competitive gameplay, either in local multiplayer with Joy-Con controllers or through online play. Pit can team up with other characters or fight mythological creatures in arenas. Late 2017, the final phase of testing ensures that all game features are functioning as expected, with extensive bug testing, fine-tuning of difficulty, and optimization for performance. The game is officially announced for release in January 2018, as the launch window for the Nintendo Switch has successfully helped it establish a strong player base. 2018, release reception. January 2018, Kid Icarus for Switch is released as one of the first major games for the Nintendo Switch. The game is praised for its deep mythological story, intuitive yet exciting combat mechanics, and polished graphics. The hybrid nature of the Switch allows players to enjoy the game both on the go and at home, making it a standout title for the system. The game's smooth integration of flying and ground combat, along with its expansive environments, is lauded by critics. The multiplayer modes are particularly praised for offering fun and competitive gameplay, whether through co-op or online multiplayer. Sales. The game is a commercial success, contributing to the growing library of quality first-party titles for the Nintendo Switch. Its hybrid gameplay is well received, and it garners a dedicated fanbase for the Kid Icarus franchise. Post-release legacy. Following the release of Kid Icarus for Switch, the game becomes a benchmark title for the Nintendo Switch, showcasing the capabilities of the hybrid console. The game receives regular updates and DLCs, expanding the world with new gods, missions, and multiplayer content. The success of Kid Icarus for Switch helps to rejuvenate the franchise, leading to discussions about future installments or spin-offs. further cementing Pit's place in Nintendo's roster of iconic characters. Key features of Kid Icarus for Switch: hybrid gameplay. Players can seamlessly transition between exploring large, open-world environments, flying through the skies, and engaging in real-time combat on the ground. Motion controls. The Joy-Con controllers provide intuitive motion controls for aiming and shooting, with an option to use standard controls for players who prefer not to use motion features. Expanded mythology. The story introduces new mythological gods and creatures from multiple cultures, expanding the scope of the Kid Icarus universe. Multiplayer modes. Local and online multiplayer modes that allow players to cooperate or compete in various challenges, including boss battles and arena combat. This timeline reflects how Kid Icarus could have evolved on the Nintendo Switch, with Sakurai overseeing the project and the console's unique capabilities influencing gameplay and design choices. For Omni PT2 will have the Switch 2 version,